that I wrote down from yesterday, and I want to talk about our leadership culture. I want to talk about who we are as leaders, and I really want us to protect each other. And so there's a couple of things that I think is really important for us to do as leaders, and it's a leadership philosophy, and it's not optional. This is one of the things that if you're thinking differently than this, stop thinking differently and get on board with this kind of thinking. Because it's a philosophy shift, and it's how I want us to function going forward. And we've talked about it before, but I really want to strengthen it and be a little more aggressive in how we talk about it for our culture, because I think it's the way that I want us to, like, we're walking people into leadership culture and walking people into a leadership shift in how we think. But I think we're at the point now where I think people could get the idea that some of the stuff that I'm saying is optional, in the sense that, like, I'll say this is how we do it at Two Rivers, and maybe somebody might think, well, that may be how a pastor does it, but that's not how I do it. And so when I say we do it this way, what I mean is this is how we do it at Two Rivers. And it's not me, it's all of us. It's the culture that we're creating, and it's not optional. It's something that we want to drive into our fabric of how we think and how we function. And it's okay if we mess up. It's not okay if we hear it and we say, you know what, Pastor doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And so I'm just going to kind of do things my way, and it's kind of neat what Pastor says. Go, good job for him. But there's some DNA pieces that I think are really designed for us to swim hard here in our environment. That's going to make us win. It's going to if everybody does it, if everybody will come together and say, this is how we function, this is what we do, it'll make us a seriously dangerous body of believers. It's like becoming Spartan warriors is kind of what I want us to think about. So we're actually going to start creating posters we're going to put around the room. Some of this content is going to be up on there, but I want us to really, in our leadership culture, and it's a little bit different than the culture that I talk about for the body of believers, but there's a secondary leadership culture that should drive everything, because we're the example. And when I was a children's pastor, I would tell my children's workers, when you come into children's church, you model everything. When I say it's time to, if I ask the kids to jump, you know what I want all my leaders to do?
That's right.
Jump. If I say I want the kids to be quiet, what do I want my leaders to do? Be quiet. It's like, but somehow people create these exceptions. Like, oh no, he just wants the kids to be quiet. Oh, so you can stand over there and talk while the kids are supposed to not talk? What kind of?
Tell them to be quiet.
Yeah, and then you're gonna go tell kids to be quiet while you're talking to your friend. That makes no sense whatsoever. So to me, I believe in modeling. That we are, and I think that's a Jesus thing. And I don't just think it is a Jesus thing. Jesus modeled the behavior. He didn't just say, think the way I think. He said, come and do what I do. Follow me. So in that, I want us to think that way. So here's some of the things that I want us to think about in that, is this idea of the front row culture. That we are front row kind of people. And so I wrote some stuff down to that, and I didn't put it on the sheet here, but I'm just going to pull it up, and I'll read it off. But leaders go first. So leaders go first. Everybody say go first.
Go first.
That means we get there first. Kind of, it's this idea of first in and last out. There's an ownership to what leaders do. There's a it's going to cost me to go first. But there's an honor to that. There's an honor. Look, it's always harder to be the lead guy. It's always harder. If you look at geese, when they fly in a V formation. The lead goose is breaking all of that turbulence up, and they have to fly harder. They have to do more to be able to lead. There's an honor to that. And that's what we have to do as leaders. We have to go first. And when you go first, you work harder, you take initiative, there's an ownership to it. So when you walk into an environment and you look around in an environment and you see something that's not right, what do?
Fix it.
Go fix it. We go fix it. Maybe if it's systemic, like if you're walking through, this is just a really generic, simple example, but if you're walking through the theater and you see a little bit of popcorn on the ground, what do we do? Pick it up. Eat it. I don't care. Get rid of it, right? We get rid of it. Why? Because we own it. And you look around, and it's not acceptable for guests to come in and see that. And worse than that, and more importantly than that, this is a place that we're creating out of worship to Jesus.
Yeah.
So we don't do our best just because we're in an unchurched culture or because people are going to show up and it's a hospitality issue. We do our best because it's Jesus. And so we give him our absolute best, everything that we do. So there is a go first mentality that I want us to carry as leaders, and it is really important for us to get our minds around what that looks like to go first. So we lead by example. First in, last to leave, own the process. So all of the processes, we have to get our minds around that there's a transformation process. So this is what I mean by that. Some people will be like, well, go ask Pastor Will. Don't go ask Pastor Will. Know the process. Give that person to the person that they need to go to. If there's a prayer wall and somebody says, I have a prayer request, where do we refer them to? Refer them to the prayer wall, right? These are things we drive. It's stuff that we have created. We have thought through it. It is not, we just doing things haphazardly. There's not a lot at Two Rivers that's done haphazardly in terms of our process. There's some things that we do flexibly, or that will, because we're mobile, it comes up where there's different opportunities that we go to seize. We seize the opportunity. But most of the time, all of our processes have been really well thought out, and that means we drive people into those processes. So own the process, own the environment, and then own the experience. And that owning the experience is us modeling. It means we're modeling how to lead people to Jesus. And that means that we ourselves are getting into the presence of Jesus. We're encouraging people around us. We're sitting in the front row taking notes. Like I want to see our leadership team up front. Like, it's not, I've talked about it, and I've talked about it, and I've talked about it. The only way it's going to happen is we lead it. We lead it and set the example. So I appreciate you, David. You're up front a lot. Carrie, you're up front a lot. Crystal, by default, you're up front a lot. But it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Sunday, could you feel a difference in the room on Sunday? Having the people down front, it makes a difference. It creates an experience. And that's not about making the people up front feel good. It's if you're coming from never having been to church and you walk in, and there is something going on here. There is excitement, and there's people that are eager, and it's not just this ho-hum, I'm going to sit back here and I'm going to have really ugly body language, and you know what I'm talking about, right? There is a way to have really poor body language. So the way in the way that people stand up front to lead worship, and in children's church, if you're on the microphone and you're like, hey, let's be excited about Jesus today, that's not going to work, right? Because kids can sense that, and they sense it. And so having that front row culture, in that go first culture, and that eagerness, and look, the lead duck, that lead goose, it's harder. We are going to shape culture, and you're going to be looking around, and you're going to be sweating, and you're going to be doing hard work, and this stuff that nobody else sees, right? It's stuff that nobody else gets, but that's how we roll.
Yep.
We are hard workers. That leadership culture, this idea that we can just sit back and stuff's going to happen by magic. Anybody ever get the idea that churches are just going to grow by magic? It's just, I don't know, all of a sudden it just magically grew. I've never seen that. We either decide to grow, and then we work hard to make it happen, or it's not going to happen. Go ahead. What was that, Mom? Amen?
Amen.
Oh, we got it. We got a believer. My mom, I'm talking about hard work. She's all about that.
One thing that I think about that, what you're saying is that, I've pastored in churches that I wouldn't invite a friend to, would not invite a friend to. I'm not down in the church. I love the church, but I've pastored in churches I wouldn't invite a friend to.
Yeah.
And TRA's not that way. But if you've ever, everyone's here invited a friend to church, so you know what I'm going to say. But I mean, have you ever said to yourself, or prayed in the morning, Lord, help our church be on today?
Yeah.
Help our church be excited today. Help them. You know what I mean? It's that important, because if your friend is there on that week, you don't want it to be a down week.
No,
you want it to be an up week.
Yeah.
And I mean, souls are dependent
Yep.
on this kind of stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And when I bring my friend, I want it to be an up week. I want it to be a good week, an on week,
Yep.
because I want them to find Jesus.
That's
It's
right.
that important.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I say about that, Carrie, is there's no throwaway
Yes.
Sundays. There's no throwaway Sundays.
heard you
It's
say
not there's not a Sunday that we get to be like, oh, well, it's not a big deal this week, because somebody is going to be there who need their life. This is their moment.
Yeah.
They might never be back again. This is their moment. There's no throwaway Sundays. So,
That's good.
so leadership culture, we take initiative, we own the process, we own the environment, and then we own the experience. Own the experience. There's the culture that we create, the way that we sit down front. Like on Sunday, if you, like Brenton this Sunday had to encourage people going out, everybody encourage people to sit up front, right? Hey, come on, let's get up there. And the more we do that, kick that old sit in the back culture in the teeth.
Do that to Carrie, not me. Come on.
He asked me to do it.
Who did
I
it?
just
All
did
right, Carrie did it. Good job, Carrie.
He asked me to. It's his.
But own
They didn't
that,
listen to me till he
own
chimed
that
in.
culture. Kick that old culture in the tooth.
Yeah.
Because if we all say it that way, if somebody's ho-humming, kick the old hum out of them.
Like, really?
What?
Also,
I'm excited to sit up front. I'm excited to be here. I'm ready. We're about to meet
Also,
Jesus today.
well,
Yeah.
we weren't very long into the service, and I saw a lot of people starting to walk in. I went up through that middle section for the first 4 or 5, several rows there, and I asked people who were sitting on the end to move on down the middle so that people coming in could have us find a seat, because there's really only, people are mainly coming through those doors down there.
Yeah,
And so I went up and just asked people to move on over, and thankfully they did it graciously.
Hey,
And
Mom,
people filled in those seats.
you know what you can do too, though? You can come and tap me if we need people to move in. When I go up for that, after that second song, if you'll just tap me to tell, like, we have space issues, just go tap me, and I'll ask everyone to go ahead and move toward the middle.
Okay, because we're at that stage now.
We're reaching that point where we have to, and just go ahead and tap me,
Okay.
And we'll get people to move in so that we can create room for people.
Okay.
And the more we do that, the more it just creates that culture and creates that, the dynamic of that excitement. Like, shoot, we need seats, people. We need your seat. So that's a good point. Okay, so that's that leadership culture that's really important. Yeah, we talked about all those things, and then just really count yourself worthy of that higher calling. When we sign on to be leaders, when we sign on to say, hey, I'm going to lead, there's a cost. And Jesus says nobody goes and builds a barn without first counting the cost. And at some point, you'll transition from maybe I'm in this thing, I don't know if I want to pay the price, to there's a moment where you say, okay, I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to lead people. My life is going to count for Jesus. And I'm just going to be somebody who makes a difference. So let me give you a couple of things with that. When we are all pulling hard and we're all working hard and the culture's functioning, let me give you a couple of these points. One, protect the leadership team. All right. So here's what I mean when I say own the process. Drill projects down and not up. Everybody say down and not up.
Down and not up.
Here's what I mean by that. In some churches, somebody sees something that needs to be done, and what do? They go to the pastor. They say, oh, pastor, this needs to be done. Look, I don't want to hear that. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't. Here's why. I would rather you own it. If you see something that needs to be done, own it and drill it down. Guess who needs to be doing it? Not us, not the leadership team. It needs to be that we find somebody in the body who does it. Right? So, and here's how the process might work. You might find somebody to plug that gap. You might yourself plug that gap and then turn that information in via email or something so we can follow up with it systemically. All right? So if it's a systemic issue, then email in. We could address it at team meeting. We can look at it and address it. How can we better lead people to Jesus? We assess that question every single week. What are we missing in the process? Who do we need to address something? Here's a need that we can look at. And then what do we do as leaders? We empower and equip believers. That's scriptural. That's what the Bible says we do. We don't do ministry. We empower and equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. So that's our ministry. Our ministry is to empower and equip other people to do ministry. So, Kristen, there's a day that will be awesome. You're not even on the microphone. You're not even teaching in children's church. You might love it, and so you don't ever want to totally disconnect from that. But there's got to be room for somebody else to come in, and you let them function in that role. But so when we see those needs, how many of you feel there's like a cultural, oh, somebody's in the hospital, better call pastor, right? Somebody just had a baby, better call pastor. And that's not how we function. We drill down and not up. So when we see those needs, we drill them down. We got to get people engaged. And the culture needs to shift in that way. So in with that,
Can I add something to protecting each other? I think too, as we grow and as we grow, all of the demands on us do get bigger. And so one way to protect each other is be careful with each other's phone numbers.
Yeah, that's my next point on here.
Okay. Because there's a process, like you said, there's emails. We all have emails, or there's the Discover process, or the tables after church. So we just need to be careful with giving out numbers. That Sunday night, Will and I both got phone calls from a person, a new person, and maybe her second time.
And we're trying to figure out how did she get our cell number?
Yeah, very.
Because I
lengthy
never would
background,
have given this
like
person my
ours.
number,
And
ever.
so I don't. It's not that we don't mind pushing up our sleeves and getting our hands dirty, but we have to have boundaries, I think. And
Yeah.
so it's just very
Yeah,
interesting.
on that one,
to
it's
look at our phone numbers.
actually
But
really important for people that are doing counseling because, how do I say it? It can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Some of the
right.
people we deal with, they know where we live.
Yep,
Yeah.
I've been attacked
yep.
in a counseling sessions. It can,
Yeah,
it can get ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
And-
really don't want to give out. That's the problem with the digital
And that's-
business card because I gave out my
But that is part of the culture that we live in because we are going to be. We have said we are going to be a hospital for the sick.
Right.
We just outright say that. We're going to be, this is the nature of what we do. We reach people who are broken and hurting and need a savior.
Right. And
Right.
so that's. I mean, I don't think any of us want to be unreachable, but we all need boundaries so we can do this for the long haul and
Right.
not burn out. So.
Right.
Yeah, so don't, send people through the web portal,
I was just gonna say,
send
use my
people-
email address.
send people to the Two Rivers, 607-341-7264.
Yeah,
Let 'em-
number.
And they're going to have to leave a message.
Yep.
They'll have to leave a message when they go to that number. That way we'll screen it out and we'll respond to those appropriately. It even creates an email with the text of the message so we can forward those
That you
emails to
can't-
appropriate
that you can't
people.
interpret. But
You need to be able to transcribe Sanskrit, but
Yeah.
we can forward it, and there's at least a link so somebody can play that message. It's accessible to whoever we need to forward it to, so we can process all that information appropriately. But yeah, so don't give our cell numbers out. Don't give other team members cell numbers out. And what I say to that is this: I love my family more than I love this church. I do. And I'm not going to be there for everybody's emergency. I'm not. I'm sorry. It sounds cold, but God sets an order. There is an order to the priorities of my life. And the church comes behind my wife. It comes behind my time with the Lord, and it comes behind my time with my family. And so the church can lump it.
And
It's
there
not
are-
that I don't love the church, but there is an order that God created, and we can do more together than we can from driving stuff up. If we drive it down, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Isn't that what we say all the time? That's what we mean when we say teamwork makes the dream work. It means that we drive stuff down into the body. We say every member has a ministry. Right? Don't we say that? That everybody, we can't be who we're called to be until everybody's doing what God's called them to do. All of those things mean we just drive all of that stuff down into what we
Well,
do.
it's not cold. It's actually more caring, if you ask me, because biblical community is what they need, not the pastor.
Yeah.
And you couldn't possibly provide the need for everybody. So biblical community can't because there's small groups and they know you well and they minister to you. And that's going to be better ministry than the pastor who probably doesn't know you as well, doesn't have time for it, can never give you. So it's actually more caring to tell people that
And
that's supposed to happen in their community.
And here's where we're going to get flack, all right? So this is how we protect each other. Pastor didn't come to my hospital visit. Complain that way. Somebody's going to complain. They're going to carry that. Here's when we hear that, what do we say?
I'd say, well, did someone visit? Did anybody visit? Did someone from TRA visit you?
And that's one way to say it. But we need to say that pastor, we believe that every member is a minister. We don't believe that pastor should do all the work, that every one of us carries the responsibility of community. And so we need to tell people that. And so say, did you go to somebody else's hospital visit? Did you carry that responsibility? Then why? So now, do you own that? You're concerned about it. Do you own it? No, I don't. Why not? And so we just put that back into their framework while I'm busy.
I'd probably go
Okay.
there second if they did like my first answer. answer. That's a,
Right.
that's
So
a little more aggressive.
So that's what I want us to do, though. I want us to reset how people think, and I think we need to. I think we need to be more direct with people on some of those things. Not to be. It doesn't. Not necessarily that we have to be that confrontational, but we do need to reset how people think. So in some of those,
And call them to action. They're like,
call them to
you
action.
know, if they're complaining about it, we'll say, I am so glad you brought that up. Will you help us with that? That is you, or something to
Yeah.
that.
Wendy has a team. If you would like people to serve in those care
Let's have you
ministries, join the care team. Go ahead and get engaged and go be there for somebody, and flip it back around so that we help drive that down. But I can't do that. I can, but I can't do that for everyone. It happens when you own that discipleship. When you own that, when every one of our team members owns that and decides to say, hey, this is how we function. This is how we operate. It's not going to be that, priestly office for you to talk to God. Every member's a minister, and that kind of Catholic hierarchy of priesthood doesn't exist at Two Rivers, and that thinking is deeply ingrained into the Northeast. That's the culture that we live in, and we got to attack that because we're not gonna function that way at Two Rivers because we can't be who God's called us to be till everybody's doing what God's called them to do. And if everybody thinks that it's up to professional clergy to get the job done, this city's going to go to hell. There's no other way to say it. The city's going to go to hell because it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Am I saying that strong enough for everybody to really get what I mean by all those things so that we know to carry that torch, to speak that, to address it, those types of things where we see that, where people want to drive stuff up, when you see that kind of thinking, address it, drive it right back down again. Everybody's got to own it. They got to carry the torch and roll with it, and we'll drive people into that. Social media stuff. So when we see social media posts on Facebook, it's part of an ownership thing. When somebody shares Two Rivers content, especially like T group stuff's going out right now, let's all do our best to share those things. When you see it, share it. Because, here's why, if we all win together, all right, if the church grows, guess what? There's your potential in your department grows. I want to hire people. I want to hire you. If the church grows, guess what? We got the chance to hire you, and you can be a full-time staff member. You can, you know what I'm saying? We can multiply into multiple campuses. We can have people on the team functioning, and the people that I want to hire, you know who I want to hire? Party throwers. I want to hire people that aren't doing the ministry. I want to hire the people that are equipping other people to do the ministry. That's the strategic hire. It's the person that's equipping other people to do it. Doesn't mean that we don't do work anymore. It means that we're modeling it, but then in the modeling of it, hey, come here with me. Come on, gather people. We're equipping people, empowering people, all that kind of stuff. So with social media, we all win together. Everybody, we all win together. So when social media stuff happens, church grows because we get the word out there. It's more that we own the experience, the excitement goes out. Look, if Facebook, this city's not that big. We can dominate this city with a few people. Our social networks can go out, and people be like, "What the heck is going on over there?" Because there'll be posts all over the place. And look at the power of what we just said earlier. This guy got a piece. He got touched by a launch mailer.
Nancy said he heard it on the radio. Did you do
We used to do radio ads. Yep.
That's what he heard on the
So a little bit of advertising goes a long way. The Holy Spirit is at work already.
Yep.
We're just giving God tools. We're giving God touch points. We're giving God a chance to function in our community. So when we do that, it's part of our culture. It's part of that front row culture. It's part of lead by example. We own it. And so when we do those things, it just transitions our community. And it creates this tidal wave. You throw a pebble in the pond, it creates a ripple effect. Every time you throw a pebble, more ripples go out into that pond till you get that baby a rocket. And that's what we want to do. We want to stir up the city for Jesus. When I see Paul going to place, they riot. Paul makes an impact. Paul made an impact, and I'm not ashamed of that.
We got stoned for that. But that's
Yeah.
Minor point.
That's the honor. That's the honor of leading. That's the. It's going to cost you. Paul gets that. It's going to cost you something to lead. There's turbulence. There'll be pushback. There'll be other people. They don't like it when Two Rivers is aggressive, because we're stirring up their broken church culture. How dare they advertise? How dare they try to communicate with lost people? Look, I'm sorry, but we aren't here to maintain the status quo. The status quo is letting this city go to hell. And we're more concerned about the lost than we are about maintaining the status quo. So you got to kick the status quo in the teeth so we can lead people to Jesus.
business as usual isn't getting it done.
Yeah, business as usual is not going to get it done. And there is a collective, if you get into a church world and you listen to church people, there's a collective, don't go doing new stuff, don't go doing radical things. You're a rebel. You're being somebody who's not playing by the rules. And the answer to that's right. We're done playing by the rules or whatever normal church stuff is. We don't exist to reach church people. That's not our focus, because when 95% of our community, 90 to 95% of our community is not in church on Sunday, there's a problem. There's a problem. So we got to go reach them. And all I say about that is this: we don't do church the way. We do it a way. There's room for the other churches to do whatever they do. There's place for them.
Yep.
This is how we do it. And if they don't like it, that's okay. Let them do what they do, but this is how we do it.
Yep.
This is how we function. So I'm just trying to stoke the fire in all of us. Stoke that. This is how we function. This is our DNA. This is our identity. We're going to drive that into everything. And so on Sundays, if you don't know, if you're looking around and you're kind of like, I don't know what to do right now, ask somebody. Right?
Or you're thinking,
Ask somebody.
I don't have anything I'm supposed to be doing.
Ask
Free.
somebody.
I'm free.
Yeah, if you're
not.
feeling like, if you're not
No, you're
sweating
not.
on Sunday, if you're sweating, I'm gonna throw David under the bus a little bit. Because you do a good job. I don't want to make it like you don't have a servant heart. But like Sunday, you're sitting down in the morning, and as a leader, that drives me nuts. Right? Everybody, find something. Right? Own it. Go ask a question.
Yep.
Go talk to somebody, and then if you see somebody sitting down, pull them with you. Right? Because that's what I came over and did to you. I pulled you, and we put you guys to work. So for you, I want you to step up. I want you to own that, own it, own the culture, own the process, because you're going to be a difference maker, David. You're going to be in that. You're going to be at Two Rivers, and you're going to be shifting the culture, and you're going to be tired, and you're going to be working, and stuff happens. You work hard in your job, but when you come on Sunday, Jesus set his face as flint toward Jerusalem. You know why he did that? Because when he was going there, he knew he was going there to die. Jesus went to Jerusalem to go die. That's what he was going to do, and that was a big piece of it. So there's a I don't want it to be like, oh my gosh, I can't rest because now Pastor Will's going to be on me, right? Look, if you're exhausted, you're exhausted. That's all there is to it. But that's a good place to be, right? That's a good place to be. There, and if you need a break, we'll give breaks. That's not what I'm trying to create. But I am trying to create a culture that says, hey, we can work hard. We're going to push hard, And that's how we function. That's how we operate. Is that good with everybody?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Speaking of social media and like our leadership culture and as leaders, and I know you said you were going to work on job descriptions and maybe
Yeah.
some policies for us as